Hey guys, we are in Unit 4 and we're on Lesson 1 Livestock in America. So, last unit we talked about plants. This unit we're going to talk about animals in agriculture. And animals are as big of a part, if not as big of a part, as the plant side. So it says that in the United States, crops actually outweigh the animals in terms of production. So that means like how many we produce. But dairy, so like your dairy cows, and that's milk. And a lot of people just think of milk, but that goes to cheese, ice cream, whipping cream, all of those dairy products, yogurt. That holds the number 2 spot for money made in agriculture. So livestock's definitely a really, really important piece to the agricultural economy. So, to be able to have livestock, we had to domesticate. Domestication means that you are having an animal converted or tamed for use in the home or on a farm. Plants are also domesticated. That's just where you take them out of the wild and learn how to cultivate them yourselves. But animal domestication is a little bit different. The first animal to be domesticated was actually the dog. It's why we call it man's best friend. These came from wolves. So it happened around 12,000 BC. The first dogs were wolves that paired up with early humans for the hunt. And a lot of these relationships started because the wolves learned that they could get something from these humans, and the humans learned they could get something from these wolves, and it was kind of a pair together to join. And then that led to getting the calmer version of that wolf and domesticating it. And all of that, through all those years, changed that looking dog, a wolf, to what we get now, even to weenie dogs. It's crazy how much they've changed. So about 3,000 years after the dog was domesticated, then we get the livestock that we have, that we think of today. So when I say livestock, I'm think of your barnyard animals, sheep, goats, cattle, and pigs, animals that we eat, So they were domesticated from 9,000 to 7,000 BC. Sheep and goats, they were added to nomad communities, so those that traveled, because if you know anything about sheep and goats, they're always moving. That's why they had to have a shepherd with them, because they are always moving. They can't ever stay in the same place. Cattle and pigs were more permanent settlements, so it's not surprising that cattle emerged in more established civilizations because their biggest benefit, they were big and strong, so they could help them actually plant and do things besides just eat them. So they could be used for tasks like pulling plows, and which revolutionized agriculture. So then by 3,000, we got horses. Now, horses, we consider livestock in America. We don't eat horses. Other countries do. But we use horses to do livestock work. They really helped the mobility of humans. They were the first cars. Other animals, donkeys, camels, silk moths were domesticated in roughly the same era. If you don't know what a silk moth is, it's a moth. Have you ever heard of a silkworm? That's where a lot of our silk comes from, actual silkworms that produce it. So that's a domestication as well. Chickens and other poultry joined the farm. They were first domesticated when people in Asia began to leave food for them in clearings and encourage them to lay the eggs. Then they would go gather the eggs. So all these animals, they're learning, hey, I can get this food from these people. People learn I can get something from these animals. So it was a really mutualistic relationship, and that's what leads to domestication. Not all animals can be domesticated. There are a few traits that determine whether they'll fit in or not in society. So tigers, the amount of meat that they have to stay alive, it's just not reasonable for everybody to have a tiger. I'm sure you've seen Joe Exotic, where they had to even get the expired meat from Walmart to feed his tigers. It doesn't make sense to have a tiger as a pet. For early humans struggling to feed themselves, taking on animals that required more hunting provided little benefit. So they mostly domesticated those that ate plants or were herbivores. So cows and other ones were important for the growth of ag and farming because they provided food, dairy, and meat, and manpower while surviving on grass and other plants. So they didn't really compete with the humans, what the humans were eating. If they were trying to domesticate a tiger, that doesn't make sense because the human's going to need to eat that meat, not the tiger. So animals that can be domesticated need to be docile. Docile means not aggressive. You may say, well, a wolf was aggressive. Over time, that trait, the domestication process made that aggressiveness get out of that one wolf. There still are wolves out there that are plenty aggressive. So they wanted docile ones because they had to maintain them. They didn't want an animal around that's going to kill them, right? So diet. Because land was plentiful, animals who could survive by grazing were really popular choices. Even today, most domestic animals live on vegetables. There's a whole bunch of sheep. Me and my husband raise goats and cattle, okay? We love the goats because they love the weeds and thistles. They'll eat poison ivy, anything that we don't want around. Temperament. Aggressive animals are not good choices for domesticating. Docile animals like sheep may run away, but they're really unlikely to attack you. However, you get your one in every crowd. They can be aggressive. Animals that are skittish or easily spooked, like deer, they're too hard to control or domesticate. So they're too scared. Usefulness. Giraffe may not be useful, but cats can provide a service by catching mice. Chickens are a food source, and so that makes them valuable. So there's still people trying to domesticate animals. They talk about zebras. So they say that horses are very vulnerable to disease in Africa, and zebras don't really face those problems. And zebras share some of the same qualities as a horse, but they are really easily spooked and startled, and they may attack people. So it's very productive to get labor out of a zebra. Some people, they breed them with horses. They're really called zorse, to get both qualities. It says those who believe the domesticated zebra would be a great asset for African countries consider breeding them with horses. Like I said, however it happens, it'll be a while before we get like a zebra farm. I know one animal they're really working on domesticating are foxes. There's this one person that's like done a 70-year research project where they have been domesticating foxes. So they've been taking the most docile version of foxes and breeding them to one another. And it's actually changing how the foxes look, making them look more like dogs. It's really cool. I'll try to share that YouTube video on here. So it's possible to domesticate other animals. They just kind of have to have those right qualities. So breeding versus natural selection. Those are two different ways to get the offspring. Over time, breeds of the different animals develop, like dogs. There's over 200 breeds of dogs. A breed is an organism with common ancestors and distinguishing characteristics, so that makes them unique. There's numerous breeds within distinct qualities for each type of livestock. So like cattle, one that you probably know of is Angus. Okay, Angus are a breed of cattle. Hereford are a breed of cattle. Most people are familiar with dog breeds. So like you don't have a problem telling a pit bull from a poodle. They look nothing alike, but they're both a dog. So they're breeds within that species. You know the difference between a purebred. That means one that has a lineage, including only those of the same breed. So, like its mom and dad were a poodle, so it is a purebred poodle. And a mutt, which is just a mixed breed. Best kind of dog, in my opinion. In the livestock industry, same principles apply, okay? You can have purebred or you can have mixed. And you may breed them, to get better quality. So, Angus is known for their meat, so they raised an Angus for their good meat quality, and they combined it with a Brahma cow, which is known for its hardiness. It does really well in hot temperatures, and you get the Brangus, which is the most popular breed in Texas. It's called selective breeding, meaning that animals are mated with the hopes that specific qualities of both emerge in the offspring. Another ways that they breed is natural selection. So no human is involved. Male and female animals reproduce with the partners they choose, letting nature take its course. Animals in the wild, they use this, and many of the mutts in the world exist because two dogs met and they made offspring without the owner's consent. Charles Darwin is the one who came up with natural selection when he theorized that the animals best suited for their environment are surviving, and I'm sure you've heard of survival of the fittest. So it suggests that not only strong, powerful males would have qualities required to become the dominant male, therefore, these are the qualities that are getting passed on because the weaker male gorillas either accept their lower position. Natural selection doesn't always work as well as you'd think, even in animal kingdom, because a lot of stuff can happen. If a poacher kills the alpha gorilla, a submissive male might get the opportunity to take over the band and reproduce despite not being the top gorilla. If dog lovers are willing to create a special breed, just so a particular family-friendly type of dog can make its way to the homes with allergies, it's no surprise that those in ag are very invested in selective breeding, plants and animals. That's how we get the best qualities out there. That's how you get new breeds is through selective